In the long run, the most unpleasant truth is a safer companion than a pleasant falsehood. Words of American President Theodore Roosevelt. Apologies in advance. This opener is going to be a quote fest and graph fest. Try to bear with me. In the long run, the most unpleasant truth is a safer companion than a pleasant falsehood. That one from Theodore Roosevelt, backed up by Javier Milei, our man in South America, a guy who has turned the world on its head and set off what amounts to a right wing political revolution. Not a violent revolution, but a political revolution in South America. I prefer to tell you an uncomfortable truth rather than a comfortable lie. And the electorate has responded. A lot of people that have gone along to get along are no longer content to do so. And I'll refer you to an old quote from Aldous Huxley, pioneering psychonaut and intellectual of some renown. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Now, these are easy truths to get one's head around, but contrast this worldview with what we are seeing from the left. Catherine Marr, CEO of NPR, National Public Radio, right? These are people that we count on for objective truth. These are ones that we count on to play it down the middle. After all, they were, until recently, supported with our tax dollars. Her thought is that the truth is a distraction that's getting in the way of getting things done. And not to be outdone, everyone's favorite bartender, AOC, decided to chime in that it's more important to be morally right than to be factually correct. These people and their way of looking at the world is hard to fathom, but the refutation is offered by none other than the renowned Thomas Sowell. It's usually futile to try to talk facts and analysis to people who are enjoying a sense of moral superiority in their ignorance. Sowell goes further. Those who say that all cultures are equal never explain why the results of those cultures are so grossly unequal. Now, I'll take issue with that quote. They do explain. It's just not a good explanation, and it's never an honest explanation. It's always attributed to outside sources. They can never confront the fact that not all cultures are created equal. Getting back to AOC and that worldview, getting back to AOC and that state of mind and looking at the world, they've coined a phrase recently on X, and that word is smugnorant. Smugnorant. This, by the way, this shot of the smirk was during the hearings on the rape gang report. We'll get to that in a minute. A portmanteau of smug and ignorant. An individual who simultaneously exhibits both smug arrogance and profound ignorance, especially when they confidently deliver incorrect or oversimplified information with an air of moral or intellectual superiority. And I would say both moral and intellectual. They hold themselves as morally above us, and they are, oh, so very much smarter than us unwashed masses. But it's that worldview of being morally correct, as in their moral compass. We wouldn't want to offend anyone by saying that cultures are inherently unequal, that they don't carry the same moral compass that has led to what was revealed just a couple of weeks ago, 250,000. 250,000. When they talk about when they break down Elon being a trillionaire, they go through the big complex process of, if you spent $1 million a day, it would take you 147 years to come to the term of, it's all in how the numbers are phrased. 250,000, that stands on its own as a large enough number. But how about we bring that a little closer to the heart and call it 250,000? white working class UK girls, trafficked, molested, raped, sometimes gang raped, trafficked, and abused. And the earliest reports go all the way back to 1955. But those smugnerant people, in their enlightened moral analysis of the world, convince themselves and those who are more than willing to compromise that they hold the moral high ground, that it's better to deal with 250,000 girls having their lives catastrophically ruined than to be thought of as racist or bigoted. And in fact, they went out of their way to enforce that worldview. There's an old adage that says, when honesty is punished, abuse flourishes. And nowhere is that more evident than in the words of those reports. I encourage you to work up the stomach to take that deep dive and look at those cases, the ones that they really got into. There's a young lady by the name of Ayan Hirsi Ali said that the West is duly terrified, but it should not be surprised. I agree. We'll get back to Miss Ayan Hirsi Ali in a minute. It shouldn't be surprised. They are duly terrified now that they've finally gotten their heads around the end result, but they shouldn't be surprised. The writing has been on the wall forever. Chart after chart, statistic after statistic, study after study, showing that no, in fact, not all cultures were created equal. That little island, the UK, once had an empire that spanned the globe. The sun, it was said, never set on the British Empire. Now, that's known today as the evils of European colonialism, but let's look at the actual end result when they started treating all those other cultures as if they were equal. In the Netherlands, these kind of cases became a daily occurrence. In places like Sweden, that were welcoming to these migrants from other cultures, because after all cultures are created equal, now have no-go zones. Their rape statistics defy tracking. They had to stop keeping track of the rape statistics with the influx of these migrants. They didn't actually stop keeping track of the rapes themselves. They just stopped keeping track of the ethnicities of the rapists, when year upon year upon year, it was almost without exception migrants that were committing these rapes. These cultures that are all created equal, because I mean, what advanced culture doesn't allow marriage between first cousins? Statistics have been clear on that from the jump too. But again, we don't want to look at that, because it's more important to be morally correct than factually accurate. What sort of moral compass takes a look at the prevalence of acid attacks that are acceptable parts of those cultures, and still tries to say with a straight face that all cultures are created equal? When we get to see headlines like this, and since some people are going to be sticklers for specificity, I feel like I'm obligated to point out that it turns out he wasn't 10 years old. He was actually closer to 14. You see, it's a normal, culturally acceptable thing to lie on asylum paperwork. And when they did the forensic analysis, he was closer to 14. But he stabbed a French woman because she refused to take off her clothes for him during the rape attempt. He admitted to all of it, by the way. And at the age of 14, he's still too young to be properly incarcerated. But they placed him under house arrest with a very strict 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew. That little scamp, that'll show him. The rate of outright ethnic replacement transcends the UK, transcends Europe, and is now coming to the US. And we say nothing up until recently, because after all cultures are created equal. Again, that Pakistani culture that's known for things like, first cousin marriage. We could take a look at the charts, we could take a look at the numbers, and they all say the same thing without exception. Take a look at the 4 locales that were kept track of here. between 2000 and 2023. Only one actually had a decrease in rapes, and that was Poland. I wonder what could have been the difference between Poland and all these other places. Over the course of the study, besides the 250,000 documented, they have raped at least 500,000 predominantly white girls in the UK alone in the last 40 years. This doesn't count the Netherlands. This doesn't count Sweden. This doesn't count the rest of Europe that is suffering similarly. And of course, what what discussion on cultural equivalencies would be complete without mentioning, that nice little cultural tradition of female genital mutilation. I can't help but wonder where the feminists are on this one. Seems like any woman being hurt anywhere is an object of pinnacle import to these people, except when it offends the narrative. 200 million women and girls alive today have undergone FGM in 30 countries, and that's just the countries where representative data is available. And the majority of those girls were cut before the age of 5. What would be these countries, I wonder? What would be these cultures, I wonder, that we welcome in with open arms and then wonder why we see the horrors that are playing out before us? It's no secret. It's no issue. And there's no debate or discussion anymore. These are facts, objectively, demonstrably, provably factual statements. ODP facts. Female genital mutilation brings me back around to Ayaan Hirsi Ali. You see, she is one of the few good things to ever come out of Somalia. A brilliant woman, welcomed in as an asylum seeker and a refugee, literally trying to escape that culture and not bring it along with her to her new European or Scandinavian homelands. When I was in Holland, the idea was all cultures are equal and all are to be preserved. My idea was no, all humans are equal, but not all cultures are equal. Why? Because she had just left one of those cultures that subjugated women, repeatedly beat and raped them, and subjected them to female genital mutilation. For those of you who aren't up to snuff, again, false moral equivalencies. The same feminist women that make much hoo-ha about the cutting of a foreskin, circumcision being genital mutilation, somehow don't seem to have a problem with cutting the entire package off of healthy 14-year-old boys who think they're girls. And they certainly don't have an issue with those all cultures are equal cultures cutting the clits off of girls under the age of 5. Ayaan Hirsi Ali was subjected to that. Another quote: many well-meaning Dutch people have told me in all earnestness that nothing in Islamic culture incites abuse of women. This is like a college kid educating someone who escaped the persecution of Soviet Russia or East Germany under communism, explaining to them how socialism really isn't such a bad thing. They said this to her with a straight face, that this is just a terrible misunderstanding. They're saying this to a woman who escaped it. I want you to ponder that state of mind for a minute. Men all over the world beat their women, I am constantly informed. All men. In reality, these Westerners are the ones who misunderstand Islam. The Quran mandates these punishments. It gives a legitimate basis for abuse so that the perpetrators feel no shame and are not hounded by their conscience or their community. I wanted my art exhibit to make it difficult for people to look away from this problem. I wanted secular, non-Muslim people to stop kidding themselves that Islam is peace and tolerance. All cultures are created equal. There's a word for this, and we'll get to it in a minute. Just one more quote I wanted to throw out from Leo Strauss. If all cultures are equal, then cannibalism is just a matter of culinary taste. Now, that seems absurd because, well, it is absurd, but this is truly the informed worldview of these people and they think themselves morally elevated for feeling this way. Globalism, says Joseph Bosch, is the absurd belief that Muslims in Morocco who saw off the heads and the liberal Scandinavian backpackers to whom those heads formerly belonged share some sort of universal value system that will allow them to unite under a single system of governance. Yeah, no. The Scandinavian backpackers in question, you guys can do the homework for yourselves. A simple Google search will pull it up. Again, suicidally empathetic women on a backpacking trip through the harshest parts of the world in the way that women are treated in a culturally acceptable way to prove that we really are all the same. And for their trouble, they were raped before and after they were murdered, and they had their heads chopped off and placed into their backpacks. There's a fellow by the name of Gad Sad. He's my current favorite Hebrew. Imagine an entire civilization that is taken over by an emotional parasite called suicidal empathy that trumps every other instinct that is within your adaptive repertoire. You are willing to sacrifice everything at the altar of suicidal empathy, including 250,000 young white working class girls in the UK, my emphasis. Nothing is more important than appearing kind, compassionate, and empathetic, especially to those hell bent on eradicating you. This was taken from his book that was recently published, Suicidal Empathy, Dying to Be Kind. Take a look at that cover because that pretty well sums up the attitude. A sheep holding up a sign saying, "Free the wolves." Because after all, we wouldn't want the wolves to feel bad about themselves, and all animals are, in the final analysis, created equal, aren't they? We can all get along. I am going to recommend this book to every single one of you right now. Owing to my occupation, reading the book isn't a practical option for me, but I am burning through that audio book, hell bent for leather, and it is freaking amazing. It's a must read. But again, none of these things have been a secret to us. It's the same feminists, oddly enough, that are most consumed with this suicidal empathy. And it manifests itself in obvious and bizarre ways with a level of frequency that is profoundly disturbing. Right after Khomeini was killed in that bomb strike, and feel how you want about the war. I'm opposed to it, for the record. Uh, and just brief sidebar, I feel like Trump has utterly betrayed the electorate. Not a fan, but we're not here to discuss the war. We're here to discuss this mindset. Khomeini's morality police beat women to death for showing their hair, yet Western feminists call his death an unprovoked attack. The same Western feminists, by the way, that support National Hijab Day, the Persian Jewess on X, celebrating World Hijab Day for inclusivity is like celebrating female genital mutilation as women's empowerment. Western liberals have lost the plot. Truer words were never spoken. Getting back to Mr. Gad Sad, a thing that the feminists tend to forget when they're constantly intervened. There was a recent attack in the UK where a Muslim man, because it's a day ending in the letter Y, went on a stabbing attack of children. Several UK men jumped in and began beating the guy profusely about the face and head. Two UK women ran in, intervened, and locked arms around the knife attacker, saying, "We're not monsters." No, we're not, which is exactly the reason why we're beating this man to death for being a monster. They literally circled the wagons and prevented the men from beating this Muslim migrant who had stabbed children. Suicidal empathy. Commit the term to memory and revel in it every time it exposes itself. Back to Gad Sad. The only thing that stops violent men from raping you The ones who are quick to say, "Oh, but men rape women everywhere." On that, the only thing that stops violent men from raping you and your society are other men who are equally willing to be violent in stopping the rapists. The West has decided that the highest virtue is to quietly comply with the destruction of your civilization because to do otherwise is bigoted toward the rapists. It really is that simple. Further, society dies when it cares more about exhibiting infinite tolerance and empathy than invoking its survival instinct. Now, we touched briefly on a topic called white dormancy last week. We may or may not get into it this week a little bit more, but we are starting to hit that tipping point, and it's manifesting in ways both small and great, observable and not. But we're definitely getting into a tipping point. A lot of black pillars have given up hope. I cling stubbornly to my reluctant optimism. A man with the comical log on of Wyatt Stagg on X. White people have a simple choice to make: be conquered, enslaved, raped, and genocided while being called racist, or reclaim our nation's indignity while being called racist. It's that simple. Whatever we may have thought about dissuading anyone from considering us all racist, that ship sailed long ago. We are, in their eyes, racist forever. Nothing is going to change that outcome. So we do have that decision to make. We can either be thought racist and go ahead and let the third world conquer us, rape our women, kill us in broad daylight, interfere when we are trying to prevent being killed in broad daylight. We can be considered racist and endure that, or we can be considered racist and actually take a stand to preserve the West. And that choice is ours. Now, as it's starting to manifest, some of the ways are funny. The Amelia meme. Do some homework on that. I actually had to have my son explain it to me because I'm not very savvy about meme culture and that sort of thing. But it's hilarious how this came about. This was something that was co opted. This was one of the public service announcements that Britain was trying to say that anyone who had a sense of nationalism or pride was evil. And they made a little character with purple hair called Amelia to illustrate that evil. And the right and those who did think of saving the West merely co opted that character and made it their own. And it's beautiful the way it's played out. You should look into some of those memes if you haven't already. She won't go away. Sorry, Shitla Blankets. I can't be reclaimed. But some of the ways aren't humorous anymore. Some of them, well, they're getting pretty sinister. A film was released recently, UA Bowl, starring Armie Hammer, called Citizen Vigilante. Now, I'm old enough to remember films like Death Wish and Dirty Harry, social commentary on a bygone era where things had similarly gotten out of control. And oddly enough, not nearly to the level that we have today. But crime was rampant, judges were lenient, criminals committed their acts with impunity, there was no justice, and films like Death Wish and Dirty Harry came out that spoke to those scenarios and provided a harmless little vengeance fantasy. The difference with Citizen Vigilante is, and I watched it, by the way, and you should, before you comment on anything, watch it. You know my thoughts on this. You have no right to an opinion until you have full access and have taken in all of the information available. Beyond that, you have no right to an opinion. I watched the movie as soon as I could so I could speak from a knowledgeable perspective. Now, every single scenario, every single scenario in that film was pulled right out of the headlines. A lenient judge letting every member of a gang rape squad go without incarceration because they hadn't been taught how to properly assimilate. That was a real thing. That really happened to a 14-year-old girl in the UK. And When I dug a little deeper, that wasn't the only time by a damn sight. Dozens of examples of that very thing. Migrants being unwilling to assimilate, not unable, unwilling, and bringing their archaic Stone Age value system from the third world hellholes that spawned them to these developed nations. And because of our own suicidal empathy, they are able to ply their trade in rape and murder with absolute impunity. Every single scene, every single scenario in this film was pulled directly from the headlines. So it wasn't a vengeance fantasy. It was a alternative history, let's call it. And predictably, Elon released it on X for free for 48 hours. If there's one thing Elon's about, it is the preservation of the West. You can feel about Mr. Musk however you want, but he is down for the future of Western civilization. And why not? He's improving it even as we speak. But beyond the Amelia memes and beyond the vengeance fantasies that are playing out in independent films, we're getting to see it in reality. Parts of Belfast are still experiencing riots right now because the Irish have had more than enough. And recently, a Scottish national, in a case of man bites dog for the media, picked up a machete and started hacking up Muslims. As he was taken into custody, he was quoted, I'm paraphrasing because I'm quoting from memory here, as saying, "I told you, I warned you, we've had enough, we've had enough." Getting back to that suicidal empathy vibe and Elon, if tolerance means the end of Western civilization, then we cannot be tolerant. Truer words were never spoken. The fundamental weakness, says Elon, of Western culture is empathy. And he's right. The very suicidal empathy that Gad Saad and others have lamented in published works. To quote Rudyard Kipling in closing, if any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied. He's predicting a future where the West is extinguished. He's predicting a future in which the West loses, to where the West is overcome by these savages from these cultures, so called, that don't approximate the greatness that Western civilization has brought to the world. If any question why we died, tell them because our fathers lied. We have been lied to. We are coming to grips with that lie now. And the sparks are becoming fires as white dormancy dies and the spirit of the West is starting to come back to life. We should probably take a close look at everything that Kipling had to say about that, including another little piece that he's known for. We read it all in our last sermon. I suggest we all revisit it because the Saxon, it seems, has begun to hate, and the people that have inspired it will reap it. God be with us. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else is on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and I cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. That last one is for the sake of you docs happy Antifa maggots out there. Try your luck. You've failed before. In any case, the aforementioned opinions have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind, and they are guaranteed to forcibly stretch open that maw and choke you with fistful after fistful of truth cock until your eyes either bleed or the scales fall from them and you begin to see. And either way, mission accomplished. Welcome back, boys and girls. Time once again for the Sunday sermon. How you been? Glad you guys have stuck around. We're going to jump into the roll call here in a second. Right now, we're going to start off as we always do. I need to know where the fire is in the building. Everybody in for the drum roll, people. Come on. Hard charging out of the starting gate as we come reeling and rocking every single sermon to the strains of Red Desert, the gut stomping rock and roll band from the smoldering embers and crumbling ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the band is Red Desert. The name of the track is Older No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older. Every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks I do better than others. I'm feeling pretty good about this one. We got a lot to cover. How about we jump into the roll call and then we'll get into it. Once again, Brother Roman taking the gold. First guy, gold 2 weeks in a row. I'm rich. Gonna be richer with my one share of SpaceX, my one lonely share of SpaceX. Let's see how that one plays out. And of course, the OG Cinder Sister herself, the divine Miss Emmy, popping in for the silver. And taking the bronze, what do we got? Brother Joel Allen Jackson from the Midwest. Not trying to win a race, just happy to make it. Well, brother, I'm happy to have you. Glad you got it here on time. We're a little behind. Give some more people time to trickle in. We'll see which one of the usual suspects have made their way into the building. And of course, where would Roman be without his lovely wife, Carrie? Glad to have you on board, sweetheart. Let's see who else has made it. Of course, David jumping in. Good to see you, brother. Hopefully, some of the other suspects will be dropping in as we progress. Joey, the Sultan of Sarcasm. It's my 29th anniversary, so I may duck out early. My wife thinks I should interact with her. You know, I don't think that's an unreasonable request, Mr. Joey. I don't think that's unreasonable at all. In fact, if Charlie were here, she would probably be insisting. So it works like that sometimes. Red Tex, Opium, even rural Conroe is too packed. That is correct, man. That is correct. By the way, glad to have you on board, man. Glad to have you on board. We're going to call it a sinner sister. We don't need to debate it. How about that? Okay? We're going to roll with that. We got Charlie on board. Speaking of the divine Miss Charlie, she is driving. I got to spend some time with her this weekend, which has been a pleasure. It's been far too long. Preacher George on board. The hate is real, and all we wanted was to be left alone. Brother, we tried to tell them. We begged, we pleaded. They will reap it. It wasn't anything that we wanted. Again, getting back to Kipling, it was not taught by the state. It was not in their blood. We were very slow to react. They brought it on themselves, and I don't have any apologies. What was it Joey was just saying? Central Park 5 got released and paid. That is also correct. Let me see. Bearded lady works for me. Right on. Got everybody on board, man. Happy to see the usual suspects. We're gonna get off into it, folks. We're gonna jump in with a little bit of scripture to start off with. Go ahead and let that bumper music fade out. Turn us a little bit light. That's okay. We'll have more people showing up later. We'll have more people catching it on the replay, and I'm totally okay with that, man. I just had a lot on my mind and on my heart that I had to get out. Had a fantastic experience last weekend, and we're going to be getting into that as well, man. Just some powerful things going on in the country, some powerful things going on for the kingdom, some powerful things going on for the West, some powerful things going on in my life right now, and I'm happy that you guys made it out so we can share with each and every one of y'all. Go ahead and fade out that bumper music. Once again, man, the name of the band is Red Desert. They are from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they have been cool enough to let me use this. Keep in mind, guys, we've been doing the sermon now for 6 years. Can you believe it? 6 years we've been doing the Sunday sermons. They have been letting me use this as bumper music. I started using it as bumper music. Older No Wiser is the name of the track. But, some of the other tracks, Lust Queen, and, they got a couple of really badass albums out. It's good gut stomping rock and roll. I'm not going to get into the genre set tripping of whether it's death or doom or desert or whatever, man. It's just some good hard rock and roll, and they have been cool enough to let me use that as bumper music since we started doing the sermon. I asked them early on. I said, hey, and I sent them a video of one of the sermons. I was like, hey guys, this is what I do, and I'm kind of using you guys for bumper music. If we do get a little political, and if you don't want to be affiliated with that, then I'll use something else. And they were like, nah, cool, rock it. So in that sense, what do we got here? What part of Conroe Mountain Cut and Shoot? Right. in that sense, I want to tell you guys, man, take care of the people that are taking care of the program and the ones that are taking care of me, right? Red Desert has been cool enough to let me use this as bumper music for like 6 freaking years now. Buy some of their merch, download a couple of their albums, and pay for them. I'm looking at you, Napster generation. Download some of their music, man. Buy some of their merch. Take care of the people that take care of the program. Speaking of, let's go ahead and get the sponsor shout outs out of the way real quick. First and foremost, man, one of my oldest and dearest friends, Mr. Roman over at opiumtales.com. He's also at Opium Tales on Substack. He's kicking out the jams over on Substack, doing some great material over there. I have been remiss and have not really been doing a whole lot over on Substack. I'm feeling some regret about that personally, but we do what we can when we can. In any case, Roman is doing great work. Opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Very tastefully done, beautiful watercolor work of beautiful naked women. Couple that with testosterone driven commentary, and you have what we call on Planet Bart a trifecta. So, take care of the people that are taking care of the program. Take care of Roman. You can find him as Roman Riva on Amazon as well. He's got Roman Freely, which is a collection of his watercolor work, and he's also doing short fiction on Amazon. That's going to be Roman Riva on Amazon. Also want to give a shout out to Casey and Dusty Tellison, my Viking brothers. Talking about Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. Nope, sit down, shut up, you're wrong. The only legit barbecue in the inland Northwest. They are out there in the Viking Longship, their big smoker trailer. They're sailing the asphalt seas. They are doing catering gigs. They are doing local events. And when we get back around to holiday season, they're going to be smoking holiday birds. They have smoked the holiday bird for the Bart Bunker ever since 2014. We have 12 years of that, and we have managed to keep the tradition alive even in the years that I've been on the road. They are fine people. They make an outstanding product. You can find one episode of Guy Fieri, what is it, Drive-Ins, Diners and Dives, Guy Fieri 3D. He went out and did a piece on him. If you want to learn a little bit more about him, if you're in the Spokane area, get with it, man. It's a fantastic product. They can cater your event. The only legit barbecue in the Northwest. And I got to, while I'm on the subject, give a shout out to one of our biking brothers. We're talking about Casey. Dusty's doing the Pitmaster thing now. Casey has gone on to bigger and better things. He has passed the Washington State Bar. He's a practicing attorney in the state of Washington. I have him on retainer. You should as well. For your legal needs, look him up. And he's got a book on Amazon. Again, Casey Tellison, published by Latah Press out of Spokane, Washington. It is called Freaks of a Feather. You can find that book on Amazon. It is a combat memoir that began as a suicide note. That should be it. That's all the lead in I should have to give it. A combat memoir that began as a suicide note. And as a result of the accolades that he has experienced from the publishing of that book, because he's an incredibly gifted writer, he has got to sit down and have dinner with none other than General Mad Dog Mattis, who was also a Marine, also a machine gunner. And it's a fantastic book, and they're fantastic people, and they're good friends of mine. They take care of the program, so take care of them. Again, one of the big things I'm about here is building community, because no one is coming to save us, okay? With few exceptions across the board here, we are white, Christian, conservative men, okay? We're it. We have been the rescue mechanism for everyone else. Do you understand that? American white Christian conservative men have been the rescue mechanism for everyone else. We saved the third world. We saved Europe twice in 1 century, right? We have been the ones to save small countries from communism. We have kept Central American companies from being overwhelmed with communism, and we are the ones who have gone in and taken out the warlords and the dictators and everything else. We have been the ones saving everyone. No one's coming for us. You understand that? If you haven't gotten your head around that prospect yet, you should, because it's not a comfortable truth. Like we're during the opener talking about Teddy Roosevelt. It's not a comfortable truth, but it's a truth. And facts don't disappear, as Huxley said, just because you ignore them. No one is coming to save us. So we have to band together. We have to build a community. We have to look at strategies. And for our trouble, we are going to be accused of all manner of heinous things. We're going to be called all manner of heinous things. We are going to be called bigots. We are going to be called extremists. We are going to be called right wing Christian nationalists and all manner of other things. All that is to say is that we love our faith, we love our nation, and we genuinely have a love for people. This suicidal empathy, and we're going to get into it more as the program goes on, is one of our greatest traits. Our empathy, our compassion for everyone else. Typically, it's in group, out group. Every other culture on the planet has the in group preference. They are not ashamed of it, whether it's racial, whether it's cultural, whether it's economic. They have the in group preference. They are not ashamed of it. They make no bones about it, and they live accordingly. We have a genuine level of compassion for people who don't have it as well as we do, for people even with whom we disagree. If people are in trouble, we have that in us that, hey, man, let's help. That's why Europe has opened its doors. That's why America has opened its doors. That's why Christian churches open their doors. Osteen doesn't, but I did. Never mind. I shouldn't badmouth Joel Osteen, that infighting thing. But as a general rule, Christian churches open their doors. We take it in. Not because we expect appreciation, but what we don't expect is a backlash for the crime of having opened our doors to people that needed it. And even then, we lean to the side of tolerance. And we are going to tolerate ourselves right out of existence if we're not careful. We're finally coming to these realizations. It's been a long time coming, but we're there. We're there. It may be too late. There may be no political solution. Doesn't matter. Because as part of that moral compass that we have, we are going to do the right thing, not because we expect accolades, not because we expect compensation, not because we're going to do the right thing because it is the right thing. That's who we are. So we'll take our lumps. Not a big deal. Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Red Text. Doing the right thing matters even when no one is looking. Yes. Though we should expect it by now. Yes, indeed. And we're going to get into all of that. Before we do that, now that I've gotten the sponsor shout outs out of the way, there are a few more things that I want to get into. One of the things that we have added to the program is a little thing where we touch on a Bible passage or 10. Dealing this week with envy. This is something that was inspired by Brother Jeff Truitt. You can find him on YouTube as Treasure Monk. You'll see him in the comments every now and then. He comes out for the sermon. He's a good man. He's created quite an interesting life for himself. He's been a dear friend of mine since grade school. But after Charlie Kirk was murdered, many people were starting to experience a level of revival. We're coming back to the faith, people who had been gone from the faith for a long time. Jeff was one of those people. And he asked me one weekend, he was like, do you ever do a sermon that's actually like a sermon, like a Bible study? And for whatever reason, that hadn't even occurred to me. Foolish on my part. I felt like I had been remiss in not utilizing this platform that I had to actually do something with the gospel. And ever since then, we have been doing that. With very few exceptions, we try to do it every sermon. And this one is going to be no different. And it touches on one of the bullet points with regard to greed. A couple of things that I'm going to go into, we should probably do. You know what? I'm going to move that over. We're going to do the Proverbs stuff first because Proverbs has a lot to say about this. These are the scripture passages we're going to be touching on right here. These 6 things, we're talking about the 7 deadly sins here. These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. That's from Proverbs 6. Later in Proverbs 6. For jealousy is the rage of a man, Therefore, he will not spare in the day of vengeance. Later on in Proverbs, from Proverbs chapter 14, a sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. You start to track where there's a little bit of consistency on this whole envy thing. Starting to track. Everybody with me on this one? From Galatians, from one of Paul's letters. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness. That's my college word. I got like 3 of those. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings. There it is again. Envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, when you think of stuff like idolatry, fornication, adultery, and murder, typically envy for the average person doesn't really pop up, because envy, well, it's just basic greed, right? That shouldn't be that big of a deal. Another one of Paul's letters. You desire, from James chapter 4, verses 2 and 3, you desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. When you ask, you do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. Y'all tracking still on this one? You're starting to see how this is all coming together with regard to greed. Again, from James, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. Starting to get this, right? That maybe, just maybe, this whole greed thing, not too cool. Well, yeah, Bart, but I mean, that's Paul's letters. I mean, what did the boss man and the carpenter have to say about it? I mean, come on, man. So glad you asked. I'll tell you what the boss man had to say about it back in the original book of the law, the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor his wife's ass. Sorry, the joke was there. Had to take it. Irreverent. I apologize. I'll make it up later. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Pretty clear what the boss man had to say about it. What about the carpenter? Huh? He went on. This is from the Gospel of Mark. What comes out of a person. Now, let me preface this a little bit, because the Pharisees at the time were saying, well, hey, man, you're not following the dietary rules. What they would speak to people like us right now is like, yeah, man, when you say you're a Christian, but you eat pork, you eat shellfish, bro. I mean, man, okay. The carpenter was adamant about this. Christ said that it's not what goes into a person that defiles him. What comes out of a person, words of the carpenter now, Christ speaking, what comes out of a person is what defiles them. It is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come. Sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery. What is that? Greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and defile a person. So are we pretty clear on where the boss man and the carpenter stand with regard to greed and envy? Not cool, right? And when I say not cool, I don't mean not, dude, that's not cool, bro. Work on that. I mean not cool in a catastrophic way. I mean not cool in a 7 deadly sins kind of way. Greed, envy, one of the 7 deadlies, just as important as murder, just as important as gluttony, sloth, lust, any of the big ones that we think about. But we tend to treat All of us tend to treat some level of greed as if it's okay, right? Some level of envy as if it's okay. We all have it a little bit. Um, damn man, I'd really like to have that car. Being content with what you have, pretty important biblical principle. But on the other side of the political spectrum and on the other side of the ideological spectrum, you have an entire, what amounts to a religion based entirely on greed and envy. Socialism, we're not going to get into communism. Communism is straight up Luciferian, and that's a different manifestation. But the whole socialist ideology, tax the rich, eat the rich. Rich have got to pay their fair share. People that have never struck a lick in their life demand that the power of the state be brought in to take something that belongs to someone else. And you know what? That person may be a horrible person. There are plenty of George Soroses in the world that it would be emotionally satisfying on a deep level to see a state power go in and confiscate all of their wealth. The irony of which is how much he's put into socialist causes to see his wealth get confiscated for those same ends would be emotionally very satisfying, but I will never advocate for it, ever. You're not going to hear me advocate for it. If it did come down the pike, you're not going to hear me say that I think it's okay. No one, literally no one, has the right. Not only do they not have the right, but they are running afoul of the boss man by coveting and envying something that someone else has. But this attitude is not only endorsed, it's indulged, it's encouraged. And it is one of the most pernicious ideologies that has ever been conceived by the mind of man. The ideology of these people, they can justify anything based on this envy because, again, getting back to their moral compass, they are morally, in their heart of hearts, justified. That's why I say this is not an ideology. This is a religion. It's their morality that they are justified in destroying an expensive piece of property, in smashing and looting and vandalizing during the fentanyl Floyd riots in the year of our Floyd 2020. You know, St. Floyd, it was proper to pay homage to St. Floyd by busting into windows and stealing things. After all, it's the oppression of those evil capitalists, the idle rich. They have done this to you. You are morally justified in envying what they have and taking what does not belong to you because for no other reason than they have it and you don't. Doesn't matter why, right? We're not looking at the consequences of it. A meme that I put together and posted recently. You are not poor because Elon is rich. And Elon didn't get rich making other people poor. In fact, quite the opposite. He created 1,500 millionaires overnight when SpaceX IPO. He didn't get rich making other people poor. Elon got rich by changing the world. You stay poor by refusing to change your life. But please, by all means, regale me with how you'd manage that money better than he will. And this is the twisted ideology. This is the twisted psychology behind that ideology. More to the point, they are of the opinion, based on zero evidence, they have nothing. They've never struck a lick in their lives. They've never ventured or risked anything. They've never tried to start a business. Most of them haven't even tried to improve their own lives in any significant way. They're unhappy. And the people that push this ideology want to make sure that they're unhappy. They twist their heads up with all kinds of falsehoods because the devil is the father of what? Lies. Thank you. They fill their heads full of this stuff. that they can feel morally justified in taking things that don't belong to them based on nothing. They've never ventured anything, but they're convinced in their heart of hearts that if you just handed that trillion to them, well, by God, they'd spend it better than Elon would. Certainly, because their morality would steer that spending in the right direction. Let alone the fact that they're so economically illiterate that they don't realize that that full trillion doesn't exist in a cash sort of way. It's not like a stack of paper money or a stack of gold bullion that totals up to a trillion. It's numbers in data banks. It's assumed value. It's nothing tangible. But even assuming it was that trillion, right? Even worse, socialists often, based on that envy, are of the opinion that if the state were given that power, the rich need to pay their fair share in taxes so the state can distribute that money properly. Elon's not going to do it the right way. He's not going to do all the things we want him to do with it. We need the state to take his money so they can spend it properly. How many trillions in debt are we right now? I read somewhere, and guys, feel free to fact check me on this because I may be a little off. Fact check me on it, please, Roman, if you want to, or whoever else might want to jump in and fact check me on this. I read somewhere that if you took every single penny, assuming it all was real, that big stack of bullion that we just talked about, if you took every single penny of Elon's worth, that it would fund the running of the United States government for a couple of months, something like that. If you took everything, you took it all, you sold all of SpaceX's assets and Tesla's assets, you took every penny the man was worth, and you gave it to the government, that it would run the government for a couple of months, tops. And yet, these people, because of that envy that has been fostered, who is the father of lies? Lucifer is the father of lies. Who is treating these people as his personal minions? That's going to be Lucifer working through these people to create that greed, to foster that false moral sense of enlightenment, where they are morally justified in taking something that's from something someone else has created and putting it to work, or worse yet, letting the state put it to work in a way that they find less objectionable. It is a lie upon lie upon lie. Extremely pernicious ideology. And we've gotten to see that. I'm not talking like we had to reach too far back in the history books. Like within the last 100 years, we've gotten to see where that ideology leads. Inevitably, there are no exceptions. And yet these people still advocate for this. There's nothing enlightened about it, and there's nothing complicated about it. It's greed. An entire worldview, an entire ideology, an entire religion based on greed. No good can come of that. This is how twisted up these people are. This was something that popped up on Twitter recently. Amy Siskin. Imagine if Elon Musk did something to benefit others with his trillion. And of course, Clown World responding. He built reusable rockets, electric cars, satellite internet for remote villages, and is trying to get humans to Mars. What exactly do you want him to do, Amy? Write you a check? And the answer, of course, is yes. They want Elon to just shed his money and start cutting checks to them and the ideas that they agree with. Somebody right before he bought X, right before he bought Twitter and turned it into X, somebody got on him about, oh, he's going to spend, you can end world hunger for 60 billion. Instead, he's going to buy a social media platform with it. And do you know what Elon did? Elon went to the people that said that and he said, okay. He called their bluff. He was like, I'll cut you a check right now. You say you can do it for 60 billion, I will cut you a check right now. All I want is transparency. I want a dollar by dollar account of how all of that money is spent. All of it. You do that, I'll cut you a check right now. They went away. Again, just the absurdity of it. And it's for any thinking person, it falls apart in seconds. Okay. Again, you're saying he could have ended world hunger for $60 billion. How many times have you heard sound bites like that? And these people spew it because that Maddow fella told them that that's what it would take. They don't think about it. They don't look it up. It's again, it's an article of faith for them. Like I said, this is a religion for these morons. 60 billion. That's the one that I hear most often quoted. How much would it take to? It only takes $60 billion to end world hunger. If that is the case, just surface level, how much did we give to Ukraine? The first care package that we sent to Ukraine was 75 billion. The final tally, I think, is upwards of 2.25 billion. 225 billion, I believe, is the final tally. Somebody fact check me on that as well. If we really could end world hunger for $60 billion, it would have been done long ago. It's absurd. You're talking utter nonsense, but these people in their heart of hearts believe it. If you break it down like I just did in front of them, their eyes will glaze over and they will call you a bigot. They have nothing. This word is going out to thinking people. It's all greed. And it manifests itself in some other unpleasant ways as well. Do you guys remember this? Remember the Palisades fire? What were we told about the Palisades fire, Pacific Palisades fire? What were we told? Oh, it's climate change, right? Same leftists, always the usual suspects. We were told it was climate change. Turns out that climate change has legs and was walking around making 911 calls from the hill that he had just set on fire. Okay? It was a hill that he had just set on fire. And all the geolocating data that they have for the phones now that can track you, right? It all puts him at the place where the fire broke out. They went through the guy's effects. They went through his papers. And it turns out, like so many leftists, he had a manifesto of sorts. One guess what that manifesto was about. That's right. We hate the rich. We hate everybody that lives in this godforsaken Pacific Palisades and their palaces and up there, just their glaring, their glaring riches, while people down here are suffering and there's all this inequality. They have no right to that. This was all this guy. Again, that religion based entirely in envy. This is not some small thing that we could shrug off. It should be. It should be. On that level, we should be able to go, wow, dude, you're an idiot. I'm going to go on about my business and nothing. But because it is so pernicious and so pervasive, and they have so many people who are adherents of this ideology, and they are willing to put it into practice by stealing. They are willing to put it into practice by looting. They are willing to put it into practice by property destruction and setting things on fire. Guys like Luigi Mangione, willing to put it in practice by killing pharmaceutical executives on a public street in plain view. This is dangerous. This is dangerous, and I'm going to go that extra measure, and I'm going to say that it's not only dangerous, that it's evil. It's evil. And that evil has managed, like so many other evils, has managed to insinuate itself into the ideology of many of the college educated leftist members of the West, the ones that hold themselves, as Gad Saad lamented, as morally and intellectually above us. And as such, it's very, very dangerous. It's something that we really have to be on the lookout for. And here's where it's so pervasive. Again, this getting back to Gad Saad and the suicidal empathy bit. I'm going to read something for you here from the actual trial. It wound up in a hung jury, by the way. One of the jurors afterward said that I personally, and this is again, the suicidal empathy, these insane, batshit liberal white women, right? I personally feel he was not guilty because there was just no way to prove that he was the only person on that hill, regardless of what he was doing. Ponder that for a minute. She was shown evidence that he was the only person on that hill, the only one that had a phone on that hill and was making a choice and was engaging in suspicious activity on that hill. But in her head, well, I mean, just because he was the only one with a traceable phone doesn't mean that he was like the only person on that hill. I mean, it really could have been anybody. Bart, you're judging her too harshly. Okay. Her name is Serena, by the way, and she spells it Syrena. Syrena. Okay. Again, Bart, you're judging her. This is an ad hominem attack. Yeah, yeah, it is kind of. I'll concede that it is sort of an ad hominem attack. But if you're denying that it plays directly into a prevalent stereotype, you're lying because we've all seen it. This is a prevalent ideology. This is a prevalent and discernible group of people that identify with this mentality. Okay. So I personally feel he was not guilty because there's just no way to prove that he was the sole and only person on that hill, regardless of what he was doing. Okay. So you clearly know that he was doing something suspicious, but you can't prove that he was the only person on that hill, even though he was the only person with a traceable phone on that hill where the fire broke out. Do you understand what we're up against here? She goes on. This gets better. And uh, I I didn't appreciate them like demeaning his character because I myself have overcome a lot of depression and anxiety in my life, and just seeing the government trying to judge someone off like little bits and parts and pieces of their life when I mean you don't even know the story. And you're wanting to dog me for this ad hominem attack that I've already conceded is an ad hominem attack. You're wanting to dog me out for that. But you know she sounded like that. Yes, even you know that she sounded just like that. You know the attitude. You've seen it. No, maybe they were judging somebody by their proximity to the crime scene and, his conflicting stories and the circumstantial evidence and the manifesto and all that other stuff. But you didn't appreciate them mentioning things about his character that might call his character into question. Got it. Again, we're back to that suicidal empathy thing. I just don't want to believe that someone could do that. I mean, like, he hated all the right people. Like, he hated rich people. I hate rich people. Like, why is that a bad thing? Why are they going to call that into question? It's got like nothing to do with the trial. Yes, Cyrena, it does have to do with the trial. It speaks to motive and intent. But again, it's not about any of that. It's about my feelings. And those feelings are driven by that envy because I promise you that Cyrena has the same opinion about the wealthy that live in Pacific Palisades that the firebug does. And now they're going to have to go through all the trouble of a trial again. I doubt they can get a conviction in California. That's the damnable thing about this. Why do you think they did that misdemeanor thing with Trump and Alvin Bragg? Why do you think they put it in New York City? Why do you think they refused petition after petition for change of venue? Because they knew that they could get a sympathetic jury that would convict on this nonsense in New York City. It's going to be overturned on appeal. If this trial were taking place anywhere else on the planet, people would look at it and go, yeah, this guy did it. But because it's California, they know. just as well as anyone else would, that the likelihood is he did it. They know that. But because of that suicidal empathy, because they feel the same way about the rich that he does, they're not going to convict. They're going to find a way not to. This is dangerous. Our representative government is based on the premise that the electorate and that the jury pool is going to be objective and is going to be informed and educated. None of these things are true anymore. And when you take that and that premise falls apart and you couple that with making this civilization multicultural, again, with the standard for preference for in group, which every other in group has that in group preference except us, we are sowing the seeds for our own demise. All of it rooted in envy. The hatred that we're experiencing for the West right now is all rooted in envy. America is apparently the most hated place on the planet, and yet everyone else, from these festering third world sores, are trying to get here. Europe, very similar. We hate Whitey. We hate colonialism. We hate the colonizers. We hate this. We hate that. But you're all trying to get here, aren't you? That hate is based in envy because our blood and our line have created a civilization that should be envied by the rest of the world. We have created a civilization unrivaled except by the North Asians. And over the past 200 years, they've stolen all of our work, but I'll give it to them. They have made a sustainable civilization that has lasted this long. We have created the greatest civilization in the history of the world. Not only does the outgroup hate us for it, but now our own people hate us for it because they have sown the seeds of discontent among our own. They have sown the seeds of envy. We live in such a prosperous nation. Why am I not driving a Bentley? We live in such a prosperous nation. Why do I have to cook my own food? How come I don't have a big house in a gated suburb? Why don't I have that? I don't know. How did they get it? Well, I mean, they've got like businesses and stuff, right? And was that like divinely ordained? Were they born into the business? Some of them are. You look at a man like Jeff Bezos, whose politics I abjectly despise. But Jeff Bezos changed the way the world does commerce forever. And he built his entire business out of a garage on a folding table when everybody else was telling him that it couldn't be done. He is now the second or third richest guy on the planet. And as far as I'm concerned, he has earned every penny. I am not poor because Jeff Bezos is rich. And I would not for 1 second advocate that the government take half of his money to make him pay his fair share simply because I disagree with his politics. Elon wasn't even on the target until his politics shifted to the right. And the religion based in envy showed its true colors. Everything popped out. Bang. And here we are. Envy is one of the deadly sins. I'm doing all right in my life right now. In fact, I'm doing better than I've ever done in my life. At 57 years of age, being involved in the crane trade, which thanks again to Brother Ryan for opening the door for me to do that. Not to puff my own pecker, but I cleared 6 figures last year for the first time in my entire adult life. At 57. A lot of guys are making six-figure income, smarter guys than me, guys that I graduated with that went into the Navy nuclear physics program, have been splitting atoms for a living. They've been making six figures since their early 30s. I finally broke six figures last year for the first time in my life at 57. I'm doing better than I ever have. I want for nothing. But I wanted for nothing when I was doing a lot less. Does that track? I'm okay not driving a new car ever. I'm okay with a humble cinder block house in a dodgy neighborhood in Spokane, Washington. I'm okay with that. I'm okay driving a 13-year-old Subaru that I can put some cool magnets on and make it look like the General Lee. I'm content, man. I'm content with my lot in life. I know I'm never going to be able to retire in all likelihood. I made my peace with that a long time ago. Some of y'all are doing better than I am. Some of y'all not doing as well as I am, but you're content. You're content with your lot in life. And if you're not, if you're in my circle, you're not out there blaming the rest of the world for it. You're out there doing the best that you can with your situation and striving to improve. If you're in the faith, you're praying to God to help you find a way to improve your situation. Envy is one of the seven deadlies for a reason because it motivates evil ideology. Let's think about this for a minute. Let's take it old school. Straight up Cain and Abel. Let's take it straight up Cain and Abel, old school, right? Cain, I'm oversimplifying. Cain was the first lefty maggot because Abel would make these great sacrifices to the Lord, and the Lord was pleased with Abel's sacrifices. Why? Because they were genuine. They came from the heart. They came from the heart. Abel loved the Lord, and he made his sacrifices to the Lord with a loving heart, with praise and gratitude in his heart. He made his sacrifices to the Lord. Cain made his sacrifices because, well, that's the rule. We got to make our sacrifices. Let's throw sacrifice together because that's what we're supposed to do. And in his head, I followed the same rules Abel did. I did what the rule book said. How come Abel's getting all the blessings? I'm not getting the blessing. My sacrifice was just as good. And when the Lord did not smile on Cain, Cain murdered his brother. Rather than step up his game and make better sacrifices, or rather than change his attitude or talk to his brother and say, hey, man, why is it that the Lord sees it? What is this relationship that you have with God? Why does he regard you? And Cain and Abel could have told him, because I have gratitude in my heart. I'm thankful for the things that I do have. I don't want things outside my station. I'm happy with what I do have. I have gratitude in my heart when I make these sacrifices to the Lord. Cain, maybe you should change your attitude a little bit. Maybe you should be a little more grateful. Maybe you should be a little more humble. And who knows, maybe Abel did have that talk with his brother. And Cain was like, F that, humility and gratitude. God thinking he's all something. Man, my sacrifice is just good. You ain't gonna live like that. I don't need that. I'm gonna strike you down. Boom, killed his brother. Envy fuels murder. Luigi Mangione, You want to talk about Lucifer running the show? That maggot is celebrated, man, because he's a pretty MFer. And all these women, boy, they love him. They just came out of the woodwork salivating. Ooh, give me a man like that kills men in cold blood because they're rich and he's not. That's what this culture's been taught about you. That's really where we're at. Women, yeah, that's really where they're at. Sad to say. But again, sad reality, still reality. Envy, not okay. When you have a whole ideology and a culture that is rooted in that ideology based around envy. They're rich, I'm not, therefore I hate them. They have a functioning civilization, I don't, therefore I hate them. But I'm still going to flee to their civilization and demand to be welcomed in and take all the stuff that they give me and then rape and kill them anyway. All of this coming back down to envy. I think the word's pretty clear on it. Not just Proverbs, but the words of the boss man himself in Exodus and the words of the carpenter in the Gospel of Mark. I think it's pretty clear where we're at on envy. So when you feel that envy taking root in your own heart or your own mind, your own soul, reject it. And I know I don't need to say that to most of you guys because I think most of you guys are on that similar page. But when you're communicating with people or you see it manifesting in somebody that you love, particularly a brother in the faith, step to him about it immediately because that envy is a poison and it grows very, very quickly into things that are outside the control of any man. Joey, let's go back and see because I've been ranting and raving for a minute. Let's go back and see what everybody. You still got to do the right thing. Do the right thing. Yep. Joey, aspiration is not envy. Yes, very correct. Yes, aspiration is not envy. Wow, man, look at that, dude. I bet if I stepped up my game, I could get like that. Maybe I'm gonna try a little harder. Maybe I'm gonna take some bigger risks, man, because I want to be like that dude, man. I want to be like that dude. As long as your motivations are honest, no, aspirations are not in me. And I totally agree. It's a huge difference between ambition and greed. Yes, yes. And I hope I was clear in that distinction when I was making the case. I feel like I probably was, but you guys are making the proper observations here. Socialism, communism, capitalism are all a problem separately. Marx was a child that broke a toy and decided that one part is better than another. Every community and family has them all. And it's David, I'm glad that you brought that up because I had marked that, wanted to comment on that. What was it? There are letters that you can find online, letters that Karl Marx's father wrote to him. And Karl Marx's dad seemed like a pretty stand-up dude because he's like, what the hell is wrong with you? You have had and if you look into the history of Karl Marx, it's just a detestable scumbag of a human being on every level, just complete ingrate. And he came from money, like so many on the left that the left makes heroes out of. Guys like Mangione, Luigi Mangione came from money. Che Guevara came from money. Karl Marx came from money. And the letters from Marx's dad to Karl are like, you have wanted for nothing in your life. You've wanted for nothing in your life. You've never worked, and yet you expect that you should have all these appointed carriages like the aristocracy does. What is wrong with you? That is exactly the attitude that we should have. We cannot indulge these people anymore. That you we've treated it as if it were just some harmless, silly thing. And maybe once upon a time it was. When college kids in the 90s first started talking that democratic socialism nonsense, like those of us who lived through the 80s who talked to people that had come out from Soviet communism, that had escaped from East Germany and the Stasi, people that had made their way out of Cuba. We get our church groups, our schools would bring these people in to talk. We knew what communism was about, and we knew that socialism would inevitably lead to communism. So when the college kids started first talking about it in the 90s, it's kind of like, okay, all right, you guys are dumb, but okay, cool, whatever. Socialist guy, check him out. That wasn't real communism. Okay, whatever. And you could laugh it off. These people are numerous now, and we ignore this at our own peril. And I want to make this point before we move on to the next bullet point. I want you guys to look at what happened in New York City in the primaries this week. Mamdani and the candidates that he endorsed, all of them avowed, outspoken socialists and communists. They have hijacked the Democratic Party. For a number of you out here who are in my friends group or are close to me who are Democrats, that is your party now. But I'm not a socialist, doesn't matter. If you are a Democrat, if you are a liberal, even an old school liberal who supports Democrats, that is your party now. We have warned you for a long time that the Overton window has shifted. You have reluctantly had to acknowledge that even John Kennedy, an old school Democrat, would be considered a right wing extremist now by your party. And it has continued to shift, and it has gone completely off the rails at this point. No one with a clear conscience can vote for a Democrat now, knowing what they support. And this is not to say that we all got to vote Republican, because the Republicans have sold us out to the tiny hat mob. The Republicans have refused to play hardball with those leftists. They can't get the SAVE Act passed, which 68% of Democrats support. They refuse to actually act as if they're conservative. But let's not start drawing moral equivalencies here. Let's not, well, they're equally bad. No, they're not. They're both bad. I'll concede that. But there's, we can be Israel's client state bad, and there's, we're going to burn the whole thing down bad. Katie Wilson in Seattle, Mamdani in New York City. This ideology, rooted in envy, has taken hold. And Screwtape is using these minions to spread this ideology. So we cannot treat it as silly anymore. We have to treat it as adversarial. If it weren't for climate change, there wouldn't be arsonists. Joey, I freaking love you, man. I freaking love you. Yeah, you mean the whites aren't rushing to move to Africa or third world countries en masse? No, as a matter of fact, we're not. Isn't that weird? It's the damnedest thing. Sears really shit the bed. What are you talking about? JP Sears, Red? You're gonna have to clear that up for me. I was born with nothing and still have most of it. Yes, yes, that's about right. Yep, right. Exactly. They were in a perfect position. Oh yeah, okay, that's the Sears reference. Yeah, they shit the bed. They were in the perfect position to be Amazon. Yeah, they were. They absolutely were. And that's, sorry, I thought you were talking about JP Sears there for a minute, but yeah, you're right. You're right. The early days of online marketing, Sears was right there, and they didn't see a future in it. They were like, eh. And now Sears is extinct, and Bezos is the second richest man on the planet. Absolutely. Anyone who lived through the end of the 80s also remembers when Biden had to drop out due to plagiarism. Yep, that's right. You are who you hang with. Yes. When you were talking about Bezos. Yes, yes, absolutely. I get it. I get it. Okay. So that was, I just wanted to cover that. That's going to deal with the scriptural element that I wanted to touch on. And then that's going to carry us through. Um, That's going to carry us through to the next bullet point. I'm going to go ahead and fade this back to my other background page. Sorry, guys, it's just me and the laptop, and I'm having to do all the production stuff here. So, deadly sin becomes a cultural religion. We covered that. Turning cheeks and laying hands. Let's get into this one. So, here is a bad thing for the Christian church. People pick on us because we let them. People step to us because of the turn the other cheek philosophy. Christians and Christianity as a faith is the only thing that it's the only faith that's allowed and encouraged to be attacked. You can't speak ill of the Jews, period. You can't even not speak ill of the Jews. You can't say anything that's not praising the Jews. You can't do it. Your life, your career, everything will be destroyed. There are consequences. You can't do that about Islam because you will be similarly destroyed or excoriated as an Islamophobe, or potentially, if you offend the wrong Muslim, blown up. Christians, all day long, all day long. And now it's no longer the jokes. Street preachers are being attacked. Churches are being attacked. I was up at FreedomCon last weekend, and I'll talk a little more about FreedomCon as we get to the end of the program. Russell Johnson founded a church in Seattle. The building's been vandalized. His parishioners have been attacked. And one of his parishioners was murdered on the front steps of the church. He gets death threats for him and his family on a daily basis. At one point, he was on his iPad reading something during a sermon. Someone had doxed him, hijacked his iPad, and sent him a message in the middle of his sermon going, "We're going to kill you when you leave the building." He gets death threats on his iPad as he's preaching. He's not an isolated example. This is going on all over the country. And I understand that a lot of people are not aware that it's going on at all, let alone the enormity of it, let alone the intensity of it. But in blue states, in places like Seattle, in places like Portland, the faith is hated. It is targeted. And there is no relief to be had from the authorities because the government of Washington, Bob Ferguson, and before him, Jay Inslee, they had no love for the church either. When COVID was going on, churches were shut down. Marijuana dispensaries were allowed to stay open. Strip clubs for a long time were allowed to stay open. Ask me how I know. I was working in the business at the time. I still take issue with the word persecution because when I think persecution, I think of things that happened under the Soviets. I think of things that happened under communism in East Germany. I think of that when I think of persecution. I'm hesitant to use the word persecution. If the left seizes power again in this country, it'll be open persecution. We're already leaning that way now, and they've already openly professed that that's what they're going to do. Under the Biden junta, they actively targeted Latin Mass Catholics. The FBI infiltrated the Catholic Church looking for extremism. They cracked down on Christian organizations, pro-life organizations that had not committed any real crime. We're not talking about the Eric Robert Rudolphs of the world that were blowing up abortion clinics. We're talking about people that prayed outside of abortion clinics and got assaulted and defended themselves that the local jurisdiction said no harm, no foul. You were assaulted, you defended yourself. But because it was violence and it took place in front of an abortion clinic, suddenly you've got 20 federal agents storming the front door of a man's house and taking him into custody in front of his family. And I don't care how you feel about abortion rights. I don't care that you advocate for murder. That's between you and the boss. But if you think that that treatment is okay for another citizen, you and I have nothing to speak about. If he's bombing clinics and killing abortion doctors, there you have grounds. And when those things happen, every Christian church, with the notable exception of Westboro Baptist, comes out immediately and condemns that action. So, yes, that's something with common ground. This man prayed. His son got assaulted. He defended his son. The local jurisdiction refused to prosecute. The Biden DOJ had his house raided, took him down, tried to levy the biggest fine and biggest sentence. Yes, Christian churches are being actively targeted. Persecuted, again, hesitant to use that word, but it's coming. Okay. Part of the reason is, I'm going somewhere with this. Part of the reason is that turn the other cheek mentality. Part of the reason is that we have given them no consequence. Part of the reason is that we've had too much hippie Jesus and not enough table flipping Jesus. That came to an end this week. I had just, oddly enough, been posting about some street preachers that had been assaulted, and the guy was actively punching them, and it took a bystander jumping in and wailing on the guy to get it to stop, because they're like, we're not going to fight you, man. We're going to turn the other cheek, which God bless them for their conviction, even though the verse is quoted out of context, even though it's an errant thing, even though the scriptures aren't suicide pacts. God bless them for the courage of their conviction. But I took issue. I took umbrage with it. I feel like once a man puts his hands to you, all bets are off. And I don't care how that makes, dude, it's going to make the church look bad, really. Because anyone who thinks that the church looks bad because someone defended themselves from a physical assault is not a mind that could have been persuaded anyway. I will pray for them. I will let them take it up with God. But I don't care what they think. I don't, not in the least. Neither did Pastor Tony Spell this week. Now, in all honesty, if we want to stretch it, he was being scriptural. He was laying hands to the sick and casting out demons. Right? I mean, clearly, you look right here at the picture. He's laying hands to the sick and he's casting out demons. And to get back to Psalms, he's making the guy lie down in green pastures. I think this is entirely biblical. I have no issue with it whatsoever. None. Yes, I am being facetious, but the fact of the matter is this: Tony Spell had an ongoing thing with this neighbor. This neighbor has been photographed outside, flipping him off while holding a gun, right? Clearly insinuating that he planned to commit violence against the parishioners, against the members of the congregation. And Pastor Spell has tolerated it pretty well up until this point. But the son of the neighbor came out, entirely provoked the confrontation, entirely provoked it, and he reaped it. He told the pastor that he was going to rape his wife, rape his daughters, and then kill them the next time the pastor was out of town. And there wasn't an effing thing that the pastor could do about it. What do you think about that, bitch? Almost verbatim, by the way. And the pastor had had enough. And he rolled out to confront this kid. Kid threw the first punch. This is all going to come up in court. In any world that makes sense, and we don't live in that world anymore, in any world that made sense, this would be a no harm, no foul. Pastor wouldn't have even been arrested. He mollywomped this little maggot. I mean, busted him up. That old man laid an ass whooping on this punk, and that punk deserved every single bit of it. Was that response biblical? I hold that it was. There is nowhere in Scripture where we are mandated to have threats like that, where you're literally threatening murder and rape. And those threats are coming from people who have openly brandished guns in an attempt to intimidate that congregation. Hey, you know what? It's their right to have a gun out. Still an absolutist on Second Amendment. You want to wait? You want to pack that gun? You want to just leave it out there on your hip, all flipping them off, and you're sending a clear message, but you're still within your rights. That's cool. Don't come crying when you get your ass whooped. That was a righteous ass whooping. That kid deserved every bit of it and worse. God help that kid if it had been me. Because unlike that old pastor, who, by the way, for an untrained dude, I think he comported himself pretty well. You guys sound off in the comments whether you agree or not. I think he did pretty well for an untrained guy. But that kid would never have walked right again. Had that been me as a pastor and my congregation, with him talking that kind of noise, that kid would never have walked right again. I would have seen to it. I would have made it a mission to cripple that maggot so that every morning for the rest of his life, when he got up, he would be thinking that there are consequences. In the long term, this is something, and there are plenty of people who are going to disagree with me. There may be people listening to this right now that are going, Bart, you were off your rocker. You were saying you were putting a bad face on Christianity. Okay, I'll take that. I'll have that conversation with anyone. I am just giving you my opinion that we have brought a lot of this on ourselves, that these people feel free to do this stuff because there have been no consequences. In the state of Washington, there are no consequences because law enforcement is not going to respond. There was barely a response when Pastor Russell had that guy killed right in front of his church. There's barely a response. They don't care. If it happens to Christians, they don't care. If it's Antifa doing anything, they don't care. They'll only arrest if it's mandatory because of the news cameras, and the DAs will turn them right back loose on the street again. Getting back to what I was saying at the beginning of the program, no one is coming to save us. So the only thing that these people understand, whether we're talking about Muslims, whether we're talking about Antifa, or any of the associated Luciferian entities in question, there are only three things that they understand: fear, pain, and force. When it is appropriate, we need to speak their language. In this case, I feel that it was justified. I feel that it was appropriate. If a man puts hands to you, you go hands on. If a man is threatening your life or some grievous atrocity, like, say, raping your wife and daughters, you go hands on. You do not apologize for that. Are we trying to win souls for the kingdom? Yes, we are trying to win souls for the kingdom. But you have to understand that anyone who is of the mind that a man putting hands to another man for threatening the rape and murder of his wife and daughters is not a good Christian, that is someone that we can live without. Someone that we not only can live without, but who would not have been persuaded anyway. We can leave those people to the Presbyterians. We can leave those people to Talarico's church because that's where they belong. Paying homage to false doctrine and a Luciferian agenda. That is where they belong. I will make no effort to dissuade them, because if the alternative is the physical harm of myself, my loved ones, or any of my brothers in Christ, they can rot. If the alternative is harm to myself, my loved ones, or any of my brothers in Christ, I don't give a bucket of warm piss for the future of someone who is sitting on the fence. I said what I said. If I'm wrong, I feel certain that the boss man and the carpenter will correct me. But I don't feel convicted in my heart. I believe that I'm right. I welcome your views. Tony Spell, laying hands on and casting out demons. Good on him. You want to talk about the alternative? Because I pulled this up when I was doing show prep, because I had a feeling there would be some questions about Pastor Tony Spell and what the alternative would be. So I just entered, right? Attacks on Christian street preachers. And it pulled me off a rogues gallery, Speaker's Corner in London. That's at Hyde Park, by the way, for those of you who have never been to London. High profile incidents at UK Speaker's Corner, like several incidents where Christian preachers have been brutally attacked. Authorities previously uncovered and thwarted a major extremist plot to behead a Christian preacher at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. Again, speaking to the original topic, we are welcoming in these people from the third world. If you've never been to London, Speaker's Corner at Hyde Park is where you can literally go out and exercise and celebrate free speech, one of those gifts that the West has bequeathed to the world. And because we have welcomed in Jihad Johnny and the boys, now people speaking the word of God, preaching the gospel of Christ, are under threat of being publicly beheaded and have been brutally attacked on more than a dozen occasions. Because all cultures are not created equal. All faiths are not created equal. So you can go ahead and miss me with your suicidal empathy. I don't give a bucket of warm piss for Muslim migrants coming to the UK. Not for their culture, not for their faith, not for their blood, not for any of them. Because I see it for what it clearly is. It is a conquest. Their weapon is the womb. Their weapon is our empathy. They come in with nothing. Military age men come in with nothing. We feed them. We house them. They breed. We feed them and house them, and they breed. And all the while preaching vile contempt for all things British, all things Western, and all things Christian. Not all of them. Right, not all of them. It's the tens of thousands that screw it up for the other 7. Miss me with that. You can't speak in broad generalizations. It's not fair to the good ones. All 7 of them, you're right. It's patently unfair. The numbers are what they are. And we're talking in terms of raw numbers. We don't even have to get into the per capita thing that baffles certain demographics here in the United States when talking about crime statistics. We're talking in terms of raw numbers in the UK. Their imams outspokenly declare that it is a conquest, that Sharia law will rule over Britain. Meanwhile, white liberal women in the UK go, they don't mean it. It's not all of them. It was only 250,000, or to put it in the British framing. Well, um, I mean, it's 250,000. It's 250,000 girls. I mean, that's a small price to pay for not being racist, in it. In it, literally, how these people feel. Enough is enough. Speaking with regard to the faith, churches are being burned in France, churches are being burned in Canada, churches are being burned in the UK. Street preachers are being attacked here in the United States. Street preachers are being attacked in the UK. Why? One, because Islam is mandated by doctrine to kill the infidels, while our doctrine mandates that we pray for those that hate us, pray for those that persecute us. I'm not discouraging that. But nowhere in pray for those who persecute you will you find anything approximating pray for those who persecute you, and when they come with the machete, just stand still. Nowhere in pray for those who persecute you will you find pray for those who persecute you, and if they threaten to rape your wife and your daughters, well, just call the police and let them handle it. I have the same contempt for that pacifism that I do for the hippie Jesus crowd and the James Tallaricos of the world. Maybe not quite to the level that I have contempt for Tallarico. He's a special breed. Christians need to stand, firstly, stand in opposition to that which is evil. We are admonished to call that out and to stand in opposition to it. Whether that is people trying to sexually mutilate children, whether that is people trying to advocate mass murder of the unborn, whether that is people trying to call us infidels and take off our heads. We are called to stand in opposition to that. Whether that is people like James Tallarico, who says that he's a Christian who hates Christianity. Well, that's cool. Christianity doesn't hate you back, Jimmy, but we got no room for you, which is a good thing because you're not a Christian. Oh, there you go, Bart. You're doing that judgment thing. Okay. You want to pick nits? You want to do this pedantic little dance about who's following the doctrine closer, and nobody's really following doctrine anyway because there've been so many translations, and who really knows what they meant about this, and this thing wasn't specifically addressed by Christ, and you're really following Paul's letters more than you are the words of your own Messiah, and blah 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 blah. You want to engage in this pedantic intellectual masturbation, do it on your own time. The bottom line is this: the doctrine is what it is. We stand for the doctrine. We stand for Christ. We stand for the divinity of Christ. We stand for the tripartite God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We stand for the Old Testament law as well as the New Testament and New Covenant. We stand for God's real chosen, not a secular, godless, Christ denying nation of any sort that popped in 1948. We do not stand for dispensationalism. We do not stand for the vagaries that enable dispensationalism. We do not stand for the Schofield Bible and John Darby. We do not stand for any of those things. And what we do not stand for anymore is tolerating violence unleashed against us simply because we have been told that we are supposed to tolerate it. No more. Stand. The ones who just want to talk, let them talk. They want to spew venom about, yeah, you guys are probably closet homosexuals and you've got your own sins, and you don't even read your own Bible and blah blah. Let them talk. They start making threats. You put hands to them. You let them know that there are consequences. You put them down hard. you put them down quick, and then you pray for their forgiveness. That would have been the cherry on top with Pastor Spell, is if he would have beaten that kid down, choked him unconscious, and then slapped him about half awake and prayed right in his ear. That's not very Christian of you, Bart. Okay. Welcome to feel that way. I'll take it up with the boss man and the carpenter. Fine. But that's another thing I've had more than enough of, is letting non-believers dictate to me what being a good Christian is. What people who will, like seals waiting for fish, for a quote taken out of context from a Gnostic gospel that was left out of even the Apocrypha, when it comes out of the mouth of James Tallarico, because that Mad Owl fella told you that that's what a good Christian is. I am not letting those people dictate to me how close I'm really following Christ, because I don't meet their standards of hippie Jesus. None of you should either. We have spent way too much time and way too much energy trying to accommodate and impress people who are not going to be persuaded anyway. We don't have enough time left on the shot clock to continue to persuade them. And as the fight ramps up, and as the violence against the church escalates, and as the violence against the West escalates, and as the attempt to take down and dismantle the West escalates, a more confrontational response is not only called for, but biblically justified. Enough is enough. There has to be consequences for these people, and they have to know that there will be consequences. Knowing that there will be consequences may prevent the necessity for unleashing those consequences. What's that old meme with Vlad the Impaler? Well, if you just impale a few, the rest of them will get the message. There's a lot of truth to that. God bless you all in that effort. One last thing I want to cover before we get out of here. And this is a tough one. That report is out. You can find it online. For anyone who considers themselves a feminist, you either show me some outrage about this or shut your mouth forever. For anyone who claims to be concerned about human trafficking, anyone who quite correctly turned on the Mango Menace when he refused to release the Epstein files, anyone who, like Marjorie Taylor Greene or others, are demanding the release of the files, and other people who are developing rifts because those files have not been forthcoming, because we're genuinely concerned about real kids being trafficked, no matter who's doing it or which team is in charge. All of you who have all that energy had better keep that same damn energy for 250,000 little working class white girls in the United Kingdom. I'm not seeing it. You want to confront truth? We're perfectly willing to confront truth. We were trying to tell you that there was a global cabal of satanic pedophiles running the show back when that was crazy Alex Jones stuff and none of you wanted to hear it. Once you figured out you could use it as a meat hook to get the orange guy, you jumped right into the party. And good on you. Good on you. Get out there and actually show some interest in what you were denying even existed not only a couple of years ago. Glad to have you on board. What's the diehard meme? Welcome to the party, pal. But you don't get to jump on board with those of us who have been genuinely concerned with trafficking and child sex abuse and all of these horrible things that have been going on since when you were denying that it even existed. You don't get to jump on board with us to get your hooks into the orange guy and then turn around and go, "Oop, didn't see that in the UK because now it's Pakistani Muslims." You don't get to do that. You don't have that luxury. I'm scanning your profiles, ladies. If I ever saw Me Too hashtag, you better be on that 250,000. If I ever saw Believe Every Woman hashtag, you better be on that 250,000. Or else you can shut your mouth forever. Some of us are in this for real. Some of us, as I said, have been on this while you were still denying that it even existed. Anybody who was sounding off about Epstein and a global cabal of Satanist pedophiles, anybody who was on that tip, sound off over here in the comments right now. We were on that while you guys were denying it was even a thing. And then once you figured out you could use it to get to Orange Man, once you figured out you could get Darth Cheeto with it, the Mango Menace, Sweet Potato Hitler, whatever you want to call him, once you figured out you could get him with it, oh boy, you were on board with that, weren't you? Oh, yes, we're so very concerned. Oh, won't somebody think of the children? Okay, cool. Glad you're on board. Here's 250,000 children. 250,000. So, how about we jump in and make sure that those files get released and things get done to people like Keir Starmer, who signed letters of release knowing that there were migrant rape gangs? Why don't we start looking for slip knots on every single member of the UK Parliament that enabled this? Everyone who enabled these Muslims to get into the foster care system. Everyone who used suicidal empathy types that said all cultures are created equal. We can trust them as judges. We can trust them as foster care administrators and let them insinuate themselves into the system and work themselves into high positions where they had access to these girls. And as a result, 250,000. Say that with me. Come here. Come here. Come here. 250,000. 250,000 plus. And the chances are the toll's even higher than that. You still with me? Good, Sparky. Stay in. Stay in. 250,000. Largely because of your worldview, for refusing to acknowledge what we warned you about all along. We warned you about the satanic pedophiles back before Epstein was a household name. We warned you that all this was going on and you denied it even happened. Now, oh boy, you're all about it. We warned you that multiculturalism had failed. We warned you that these cultures accept the sexual abuse of these children and that putting them into these positions was dangerous. And you called us bigots and racists. And now, over decades, you have 250,000. Let me say it again. Come here, Sparky. Come here. Come here, Sparky. 250,000. 250,000. Lives that they'll never be able to get back. Women that are physically, psychologically, and even spiritually traumatized for the rest of their life. Where are you? Where's that outrage? Where's that outrage, Sparky? Crickets. crickets. Because as Gad Sad lamented, and folks like myself and Brother Ryan, thank you, Ryan, for being here, by the way, and I will get to your thing. I'm just on a roll, so let me rant. People like us have been saying this for a long, long time because we genuinely did give a damn about these broken souls. We genuinely did give a damn about these ruined lives. For us, it was really about the suffering of innocence. For you, it was a matter of political expediency. So, any of you, no exceptions, if you can't be bothered to even post, post, and Brother Ryan especially, I know he's down. He's down because he got to see firsthand. He lives it every freaking day for you self-righteous claptraps. Won't someone think of the children? All the women that are being harmed. That system that you put in place, my brother gets to wrestle with that every single day of his life. He has done nothing but try to be a good father to his son, and he is having to jump through astronomical hoops because y'all are so all fired concerned about the welfare of children. You're not. This is an item of political expediency for you. So you either find some outrage, the same outrage that you have for the victims of your mango menace, you find that same outrage for that 250,000 in the UK, or you shut your mouth forever. Forever. The time for dealing with unserious people is long gone. The time for tolerating duplicitous, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. The time for tolerating the duplicitousness, that ship has sailed, man. That ship has sailed. Want me to tell you what's under attack? I'll tell you what's under attack. The West is under attack. The civilization that lets you pop off with your duplicitous claptrap, that's under attack. The faith that you condemn and despise for calling you out on your own BS is under attack. The men who try to be good fathers, trapped in a system to trapped in a system that's designed to protect bad actors as long as those bad actors are female, they're under attack. People who are trying to actually bring some good into the world, they are under attack. Those of us who genuinely want to bring some good into the world, we don't need you to help us. We know that's beneath you and you're not capable of it on a spiritual level, emotionally and morally bankrupt and bereft as you are. We know you're not capable of helping us bring that good and manifest it in the world. And even if you were capable, you're not inclined. So we don't need that from you. But what we do expect is that you stop actively interfering with us bringing that good into the world. Stand aside. Here's an example. Getting back to it, because there's two videos that popped up that illustrate the problem. One, African migrant in Italy masturbating in public on a beach in front of kids. 4 or 5 Italian men hopped on this guy, start wailing on him, hit him with chairs, beating him, as they should. And a white Italian, no doubt liberal woman jumps into the middle of the mix and puts herself between to protect the migrant. In the UK, one of these migrants on a stabbing spree, again, because it's a day ending in the letter Y, a migrant decided to stab some kids. 4 or 5 English guys start wailing on the dude, as well they should. 2 UK women throw themselves into the mix and circle arms around the guy to protect him from being beaten. This book is mandatory reading for all of you. It's your homework assignment. When we are at a point where the same women who constantly lament the violence against their gender will insinuate themselves into a situation to interfere with people trying to prevent said violence, you either find the same energy or shut your mouth forever. The days of getting to have everything your way all the time are done. We have left it to you, and this is what it's brought us to. The men are stepping in now, and we're going to handle it. Everything that comes as a result of this, you have no one to blame but yourself. That's going to be that. I want to talk a little bit about this before I get out of here because it was fantastic. FreedomCon 2026, Rise of the Statesman. First of all, let me say that Pastor Russell Johnson, coming out of Seattle, is an evangelist on the level of Billy Graham. I don't agree with him completely on everything. Me and J. Garvey Pike had a little verbal dust up over that. I don't agree with his position on Israel, but the kid has guts and he brings the fire and he can preach. But what I saw standing there for 2 days were 5,000 godly men who had finally reached a point in their life where they were ready to take a stand for their faith, for their country, for their families, for themselves. Now, the black pill crowd will be like, yeah, this always happens. Everybody talks a good ball game. Nothing's going to come. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But I'm not going to feed into that energy right now. I feel charged up. I feel charged. I feel renewed. I feel invigorated. And God dropped a prophetic word on me while I was there. Maybe next sermon we'll talk about exactly how that prophetic word got dropped on me and who dropped it and how it went down. But I got to meet some very good people. I got to meet Eric Metaxas. I got to meet Texas Representative Nate Schatzline. I got to see, man, look, I'm just going to level with you. I was excited as a high school kid getting to see his favorite rock stars perform, getting to see these men preach live. Guys like Mark Driscoll. I know a lot of you out there have issues with Mark Driscoll. I don't agree with Mark Driscoll on everything. But as I've said before, we don't have time for this infighting. If you are bringing it for the kingdom and you are standing 10 toes down on business, you have my respect. We settle everything else up later. Right now, we're in a fight. We need all hands on deck. Mark Driscoll brought the fire. Russell Johnson brought the fire. John Lovell, Warrior Poet Society, brought the fire. Nate Schatzline, Texas State Representative, getting things done. Saying that you're not going to mutilate our kids anymore. Saying that you're not going to sell communism to an up and coming generation, that the world is not going to be led by this godless, secular degeneracy that says that all of these things are okay. They're not. We're content to take your verbal abuse. We're content to take whatever you decide to hurl at us. But if standing on business for the scripture makes me, then I'll be. Fill in that box however you want. Doesn't bother me in the least. It was a fantastic event. I got to see some great men speaking the word, and I got to see 5,000. This was beautiful. I'm going to tell you how it closed. Pastor Josh McPherson, he runs Grace City Church there in Wenatchee. I consider Grace City my second home church. My home church currently being On Fire Ministries out of Spokane, Pastor Matt Shea. But I've been to Grace City. I consider Grace City my second home church. Josh McPherson, head pastor at Grace City, put this thing together. He's doing a lot of great things for the kingdom. He put together an event of this size and this magnitude in 62 days. Any of you who have ever dealt with event promotion know what an insurmountable effort, what an insurmountable obstacle that was just to have this thing put together. They did a great job with it. But at the very end, they brought easels out with poster boards. Pastor Josh began to read. In the Declaration of Independence, there are a list of grievances against the king. And so on every one of these easels was a big 4 foot by 5 foot big poster board with the same thing printed on all of them. A renewal of the Declaration of Independence. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary rights to which nature and nature's God entitled them, declare why we're separating. Then there's a list of grievances. And they went down that list of grievances, updated for the modern era. It's available online. You should take a look at it, see how you feel about it. But I watched 5,000 plus godly men come down to the front right there at the gorge. It's right there at the gorge in Washington. If you've never been there, you should. It's magnificent amphitheater right there on the Columbia River Gorge. And with the sun setting behind us and a soft wind blowing through, bringing the temperature down, we went to the front and we knelt and we prayed together and we praised God together and we signed that document together because it closed the same way the Declaration of Independence did. To these ends, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. I put my name to that, as did 5,000 plus godly men. They got to share that moment. It was a beautiful moment. I'm happy to have been a part of it. Going forward, I'll tell you a little more about that prophetic word I got, and things will make a lot more sense. But going forward, it's time to stand on business. If you're walking into faith, great. If you're not, stand on business as men. As men. Because men, we need to be looking out for men. Getting back to my brother, man. What I talked about at the beginning of the program, ain't nobody coming to save us. Ain't nobody coming to save us. You understand? White Christian American men, no one is coming to save us. We have been the rescue mechanism for everybody else. We are the ones who had to go save Germany twice. We are the ones who had to go save all of Europe twice. And yes, I can already hear you. Yes, maybe wasn't the greatest call. We went about it. Get it. Stay with me. You know the point that I'm making. We are the ones who make up the ranks of the firefighters. We are the ones who make up the ranks of the police forces. We are the ones who make up the ranks of the clergy. We are the ones who protect. And for our trouble, we are condemned. And now that we need it, and we have brothers that are suffering, no one is there to save us because we are the ones that everyone else counts on to save them. No one's coming for us. That doesn't mean look out for yourself. Oh man, I got to look out for myself. Nobody else. Look out for number one. That is not what I'm saying at all. That is the polar opposite of what I'm saying. I'm talking about building community. I'm talking about building brotherhood. I'm talking about recognizing the situation for what it is and coming together and looking out for your brother. Whether he is a brother in Christ, whether he is a brother in arms, whether he is a brother in blood or a brother in shared experience, he is your brother. He is your brother. So you look across to that man, you embrace him as a brother, and you guys take care of each other the way brothers are supposed to. And I know there are plenty of you out there that are like, well, man, my relationship with my family is all screwed up. Yeah, I get that. You know what I'm saying. If your relationship with your family is screwed up and you don't have a proper idea or approach to what a brother is supposed to be, then you be that for someone else. Let that generational curse end with you. Show the world what men are capable of. Show the world the way righteous men behave. Hold each other to account, support each other, get each other's backs, stand strong. Because no one is coming to save us. It's on us. But stepping up to challenges like that is in our blood. It's who we are. For those of you who are in the faith, I don't need to share with you. I don't need to tell you, but the ones who aren't, I will offer this for what it's worth. There's a strength. There's a strength in God, and there's a redemption in Christ. For what it's worth, lay that burden at the foot of the cross. See how it works out. If it doesn't, come back and let me know. I'll gladly concede. But I'm still standing with that Nazarene carpenter. No one is coming to save us, but there is a redemption that was bought for us through his blood at Golgotha that says that maybe this world is still going to be catastrophically skewed and screwed, but the kingdom is coming. And I put my faith in that. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. God bless you guys. Sorry we didn't get around to talking about the movie. Maybe we'll do that next week, something. But all good, man. All good. I love y'all, man. Thank you for being here. God bless each and every one of you for tolerating it. I'll pass that digital collection plate around. I'm on PayPal. I'm on Cash App. I'm on Venmo. I'm on Facebook Pay. I'm on all that good stuff. If anybody wants to drop something in the plate, that would be cool. If not, man, hey, I get it, man. Some days I'm not doing the sermon quite as well. Maybe I hadn't earned it. Or maybe you just ain't got it because times are tough. But here's what you can do for me. Share the sermon, repost it on your own social media. And here's what you can do above all. Not for me, but for yourself. Mike was here, he'd tell you. Live the three, baby. Live the three. What are you talking about? Well, live the three. What is this cult weirdness? Live the three, man. The three prime directives. On Planet Bart, there's just some rules for life to make it a little bit easier for you. Rule number one, you got to be signal in a world full of noise. Signal to noise ratio is all jacked up right now. What is the signal? The signal is the truth. The noise is the lies and the obfuscations. Obfuscations, that's my college word. I got like 3 of those. Anyway, you got to be that signal punch through the noise. You got to be the light in a world full of darkness, man. And they'll try to bury you in the darkness. They'll convince you that there's nothing left but darkness. They'll demoralize you, dehumanize you, emasculate you with the darkness. You have got to be that light. And you've got to carry that light through a long-lasting darkness. Because sometimes that fog is thick and sometimes the night is long, which leads me to the third rule, the iron rule, the most important rule, the prime directive. You've got to be strength in a world full of weakness. And I'm not talking about strength. This is cool. This kind of strength, all right, but it can't just be here. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. And guys, let your balls drop. It's got to be here too. Why? Because without strength, none of the rest of it matters, guys. None of the rest of it matters. Without strength, you won't have the tenacity or the guts to punch that signal through the noise. Without strength, you won't have the endurance to carry that light through a long-lasting darkness. So strength above all, man. Strength above all. And when you hit your knees at night to pray, and you're better, you pray for that strength. But you pray for clarity and discernment as well. Because the enemy is always out there. He is the father of lies. He's always looking to trip you up. You can be strong, you can be sharp, but you got to have that clarity and you got to have that discernment. Hit your knees every night. Come from a position of humility and gratitude. Be humble and be grateful for all that God has delivered to you, man. Always. Put your face in some scripture, your ass under some iron, and your world will be a better place, I promise. God bless y'all, man. Appreciate you being here. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Boss Man's got the plan. Carpenter's got your back. God bless. See you next Sunday, God willing. Peace.